Welcome everyone to this session on Get Faster into Production with End-to-End Machine Learning Operations. My name is Erwin. I'm a developer advocate at Google Cloud. And for this session, I'm joined by Arkit Mitra, who's a VP of Machine Learning at Glance. Arkit will do a longer introduction later on himself. So before we go into the Q&A with Arkit, I want to quickly talk about machine learning operations, do a short recap of what is it when we talk about machine learning operations. So when we talk about machine learning operations, we mean an ML engineering culture and practice that aims to unify machine learning system development, dev, and machine learning system operations, ops. So let's double click a bit more on what does it mean building a machine learning ops system, also for us before we go into the Q&A with Arkit. A while back, we launched our machine learning operations framework. And when we look at our machine learning operations framework at a very high level, there's different phases. We have the training phase and we have the serving phase. So when we look at training, typically what happens there is that you do experimentation. So you try a few different models, maybe some different parameters, and you experiment with that. And then you hit the training phase, or even the retraining phase if you want to update your model with fresh data. And then once you have a model you're happy with, then you start thinking about serving and bringing that model into production. Serving model could mean batch serving or online serving as an API, model deployment. And once the model is deployed, you need to think about continuous monitoring. Is my model still performing as expected? Did something change with the data or with my model? And then when you have these end-to-end workflow, of course, you have to think about things like model management and model governance, as we heard in some of the other talks as well. A lot of our customers, users, developers ask us the question, but if I want to build, manage, and scale these end-to-end machine learning workflows, how do they do that on GCP? This is where a fully managed pipeline service comes in. This helps you with building, orchestrating, scaling end-to-end machine learning workflows. And we do this through offering an easy-to-use Python SDK to design your machine learning workflows. You can use either Kubeflow Pipelines SDK or the TensorFlow Extended SDK to build your pipelines. This is a scalable service, so you can run as many pipelines as you want and when you need. It's also very cost-effective to use a managed service like this because you only pay for your pipelines run and the resources used. And as we talked about, metadata tracking and lineage tracking is very important for when you build an MLOps system. So these pipelines will automatically store metadata about every artifact produced by the pipeline. And of course, it's also a secure environment. So we will be integrating with GCP security services, IAM is, of course, VPC service controls. So managed pipelines can help you build these pipelines, but also manage them at scale. So enough for the slides. Let's go into our awesome Q&A with Arkit. So Arkit, I did a quick introduction of you earlier in the talk, but could you talk a bit more about yourself, your role, your team, and what you do at Glance?
So I've joined Glance as a VP of Machine Learning last year to build the recommendation system and the content generation system that powers Glance's log stream. Previously worked with companies such as Dream11, AXA, Absolute Data, and I've solved a number of machine learning problems for them. Glance, for those of you who don't know, provides log stream content to millions of Android phones with over 170 million consumers consuming the content on Glance. It becomes extremely important for Glance to land the right content at the right time at the consumer's device. The problem statement at Glance remains unique in the sense that we do not have another company like us, and the user growth and scale is just tremendous. So that's a little bit about me and about Glance as a service.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. You already mentioned a few of the use cases that Glance works on and your team works on, but could you talk a bit more in detail about some of these use cases and the ones that your team work on and how you use machine learning also in these use cases?
Yeah, so one of our primary use cases is around multimodal personalization for more than 150 million users. Um, that's if that was hard enough, we also have to find out the causal effects of user behavior, some amount of synthetic content generation, and all this at very, very large scale. The uniqueness of the glance problem statement stems from the fact that content and recommendation is targeted at a very large population which has never used the internet ever. And then there is another section of population which is using internet every day. So we have to cater to the needs of all such people. So that adds that additional bit of complexity.
Well, that's very interesting, and it sounds like a very complex problem to solve for your team. Could you talk about, so currently you're working on a migration to Vertex AI. Can you talk a bit about this project and why your team is using Vertex AI to solve some of these problems?
Yeah, for our end-to-end ML systems, we were using uh, an in-house system for the last 4 or 5 years that served us really, really well. But as the scale of the company increases, we realized that we need something more scalable, which is where we decided to move to Vertex AI. As of yesterday, we just completed our migration to Vertex AI, and all our machine learning pipelines as well as the prediction services have been completely moved to Vertex AI. Uh, this process was a little long. It took us like a few weeks or a couple of months, I would say, and we worked very closely with the GCP team in getting these hundreds of services ported onto Vertex AI, and there have been very few problems that we have faced around the same.
Wow, that's a big milestone. And I would say moving hundreds of use case or models and projects at that scale in only a few weeks or a few months, I think that's very, very impressive of you, you and the team. Could you talk a bit more about your machine learning operations approach at Glance?
So MLOps approach at Glance has been a buy and build in the sense that we have subscribed to Vertex AI as a part of the GCP offerings, but then built certain components on the top of it, which makes our lives easier. GCP team has been working collaboratively with us for the last few months, and the basic idea will be to get everything at one place so that everything related to ML scientist productivity is completely self-serve and people don't have to move around to multiple services to do anything.
Awesome. Also, you recently have written a great blog post about recommendation system. And you talked about why they are so different to operate and operate into production. Can you talk about some of the things that you mentioned in your blog post?
Yeah, so recommendation systems in general are a difficult machine learning problem statement, right? So and add to that the user scale and the content scale, it's a perfect recipe for disaster. If MLOps is hard, what I call Rexis ops is just piles up on the top of that. So you have slow moving metrics, the relationship between the offline metric and the online metric do not come up. The number of systems, ML systems and backend systems which have to work together is a lot. And of course, at the end of the day, there is immense amount of compute that goes in. And add to all of this, if there is a small problem in your recommendation system, you are going to kill off your business slowly without you even knowing that your business is going down. And it is just cutting off like a couple of percentage points from your revenue every day. So that adds that additional complexity of having some monitoring system, some alerting system, which can like alert you like, okay, something is going wrong. So yeah.
Rexis ops, I love it, Arkit. That's definitely one we're gonna reuse more often. We only have a bit of time left. Is there like one lesson learned you want to share with the audience?
I think one of the primary lessons would be ready for software engineering practices to hit the ML developers. If they haven't already hit you, they are going to hit you. You can expect that the best of MLOps practices, the Git best practices, pre-commit hooks, data versioning, pipeline versioning, and a lot of all this will come to you because till now ML was in its infancy. Now we are hitting production. So while not all the software engineering practices will make sense, some of them will. and we will have to build some additional practice of our own. While there will be some inertia right at the start from the ML teams to move to these practices, but after a couple of sprints, most teams will see the point.
Love it. Well, thank you, Akid, again for joining us. It's been a pleasure hearing you talk about the use cases, and big thanks for all of our viewers for viewing this session, and I hope to see you next time.
Thank you, Arvind.